The hall was bright with silver light, but the air was tense and cold. Every corner of the great chamber was filled with guards, cameras, and silent watchers from 100 worlds. They all came to see the moment when an alien princess and a human soldier would be joined together in a single promise of peace. Mira stood still on the shining floor, her hands folded before her, her golden eyes lowered. Her heart beat fast, though she tried to hide it. She could hear the quiet hum of machines and the whispers of diplomats behind her. Somewhere, someone muttered that the princess was lowering herself by marrying a human. She felt their eyes sharp and heavy like knives on her back. Across from her stood Lee Dae-hyun, the human commander. His dark hair was neatly tied, his expression calm. He did not look nervous. He stood straight like a man used to facing danger without fear. But Mira could see something behind his stillness. His eyes kept moving, small sharp movements that scanned every exit, every guard, every light flicker in the ceiling. He looked not like a groom but like a soldier walking through a battlefield. The ceremony began. A voice from the council announced the vows. Mira repeated the words softly, her voice trembling only once. Dae-hyun spoke in return, his tone even and clear. When he said the final line, "I will protect peace with all I am," the hall fell silent. For a long moment no one moved. Then the crowd began to clap, slowly at first, then louder. Cameras flashed. The sound of distant ships echoed from outside the glass walls of the palace. The marriage was done. The treaty between the Averan Dominion and Earth was sealed. Billions across the stars watched it happen. That night, in the quiet of her new quarters, Mira sat near the wide window that showed the blue swirl of space.
She had married a stranger to save her people.
The thought felt heavy in her chest. She could still hear the words her uncle, General Rovak, had told her that morning. "You think this will bring peace? You gave your name to a human, and now they will rule us from within." She had not answered him then, but the words burned in her mind now. The door slid open behind her. She turned. Dae-hyun entered silently, his uniform replaced by a simple gray shirt. He looked tired yet alert. "You don't have to stand guard all night," she said softly. "I'm not," he replied. "I'm thinking." "About what?" He looked out the window with her. "How fragile peace can be." Mira studied him carefully. "You are a soldier. Soldiers make war, not peace." Dae-hyun's lips curved into a small, tired smile. "Sometimes we make peace by knowing when to stop fighting." She frowned, unsure what to make of his calm voice. "Did you marry me because of politics?" He turned to face her. His eyes were steady. "I married you because if I didn't, thousands would die. I don't care about politics. I care about lives." There was no pride in his tone, no arrogance, only quiet truth. It made her chest tighten. She wanted to believe him, but she had been raised among liars and rulers. Trust did not come easily. Hours passed. The palace grew quiet. Dae-hyun took a seat near the wall, resting his back and closing his eyes. Mira watched him for a long time. Even asleep, his hand rested near the small blade at his side. A soldier could never truly rest. Then the lights flickered. A low hum filled the air. She looked up sharply. The window flashed white and the world exploded. The blast threw her across the room. Smoke filled her lungs. The floor cracked, alarms screamed, and the power died. She pushed herself up, coughing, her ears ringing. Guards shouted outside the corridor, "Mira!" A voice called through the smoke. But it was not Dae-hyun's. It was one of her attendants, her face pale with fear. "There's been an attack. Someone planted explosives in the East Wing." "Where is Commander Lee?" Mira shouted back, "I don't know. They say he's gone. His quarters are empty." "Gone?" Mira froze. Her heart dropped. For one moment she thought he had escaped. Then doubt hit her like a knife. Had he known? Had he done this? The council would think so. The humans would be blamed. The fragile peace would shatter before it began. Guards rushed into the room, pulling her away from the broken glass. They guided her through the smoke-filled halls, past wounded servants and flaming walls. The palace was chaos. When she finally reached the secure chamber, her uncle was already there. General Rovak stood tall in his black armor, his silver eyes cold and sharp. He turned to her slowly. "So, niece," he said, "your human husband has shown his true colors." "You don't know that," she said quickly. "We don't know who did this." He stepped closer. "Who else could? The humans feared losing the treaty's control. They sent him to destroy it from within. I warned you," she shook her head. "No, he wouldn't." "Wouldn't he?" Rovak's tone was sharp. "Where is he now?" Hiding, escaped like a coward. Mira tried to think clearly, but her mind spun. Daehyun was gone. The palace was burning. And now, war might begin again. Later that night, she sat alone in her chamber, staring at the small communicator on her wrist. She tried calling him, no answer. Only silence. She remembered how calm he had looked during the ceremony, how his eyes had searched every shadow. Maybe he had sensed something. Maybe he had gone to stop it. Or maybe, as her uncle believed, he had caused it. When dawn came, the city outside the palace was still covered in smoke. The news screen showed the blast again and again, calling it the fire of betrayal. Protesters shouted in the streets. Soldiers took their positions. In the War Council, the Averin demanded the treaty be cancelled. Earth's ambassadors denied any involvement. Words became weapons. Threats filled the air. Mira stayed silent during the arguments. Her heart felt heavy with confusion and fear. When the meeting ended, she walked out into the balcony, where the cold wind touched her face. Somewhere beyond the clouds, in the dark part of the city, she imagined Daehyun moving silently, alone. If he was truly innocent, he would not run forever. He would come back. But that night, when she lay awake in the empty bed, she wondered if she would ever see him again. In the distance, a hidden signal flared across the security grid. Someone was moving through the lower sectors using human military codes. He was still out there. The city of Avaris Prime was quiet, but the tension in the air was thick and heavy. Fires from the previous night still burned in some districts, and black smoke curled up into the pale blue sky. Soldiers patrolled every street, their armor glinting in the sunlight. Citizens moved carefully, their eyes wary, whispering rumors of treachery and betrayal. Mira stood on the balcony of her chamber, the wind tugging at her long hair. She looked down at the city and thought of Daehyun. He had disappeared during the attack, and no one knew where he had gone. Some said he had fled, some said he had helped the saboteurs. She refused to believe either story. The man she had married, the man she had looked into during the ceremony, could not be a traitor. Her uncle, General Rovak, stormed into the room. His black armor clanged as he moved, and his eyes were sharp and furious. "Do you intend to let him hide while our people suffer?" he demanded. "The humans have betrayed us. They have sent their soldier to destroy our peace." Mira's lips pressed together. She tried to keep her voice steady. "I don't know what happened. Daehyun is not our enemy. I won't believe that without proof." Rovak's expression hardened. "Proof? The palace burns. Innocent citizens are injured. If he is alive, he is hiding, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again." Mira felt a flicker of fear. Could he be right? But her heart told her otherwise. Daehyun was a soldier, yes, but he had never fought for destruction. He fought to protect. She turned away from her uncle and walked back into the chamber. She could not sit still. She paced, trying to think. She needed answers. If Daehyun was alive, she had to find him. Meanwhile, far below the city, Daehyun moved silently through the ruins. His uniform was dark, blending with the shadows, and his boots made no sound on the broken streets. Smoke burned his eyes, but he did not slow down. He had a mission: find the real attackers and stop them before more people died. His mind worked quickly, calculating every risk, every possibility. The attackers had used advanced explosives, alien-designed weapons modified for the palace. Only someone with deep knowledge of the palace systems could have done it. And the evidence he found pointed to Rovak's inner circle, the loyalists who hated humanity and wanted to ruin the peace treaty. Daehyun paused at a corner and listened. Two guards were talking below. Their voices were low, but he heard enough. They mentioned secret passages, a hidden storage of weapons, and a plan to blame humans for every death. He smiled faintly, though his face was streaked with soot and sweat. The pieces were falling into place. The humans were not the enemy. The real threat was the Averin faction that wanted war. As he moved closer to the palace, Mira was holding a private meeting with her council. Her face was serious, her hands folded. "We cannot act without knowing the truth," she said. "If we punish humanity based on false accusations, We will lose everything we have worked for. Her counselors murmured among themselves. Some agreed, but many were fearful. They had seen the destruction. They wanted revenge. Mira's heart ached. She wished Dae-hyun were here to explain everything. Suddenly, her personal communicator buzzed. It was a signal she had never received before. She pressed the button. A voice spoke, low and calm, yet commanding. "Mira, I am here. Do not act without me." Her eyes widened. She knew that voice. It was Dae-hyun. Relief and fear mixed together. "Where are you?" she whispered. "I cannot tell you yet." "It is not safe," he replied. "But I am tracking the attackers. I will stop them before they can strike again." Mira's heart raced. "You are risking everything," she said softly. "I promised to protect peace. I keep my promises." With that, the line went silent. Mira pressed the communicator to her chest, feeling the weight of his words. He was out there fighting alone against forces she could barely imagine. Far away, Dae-hyun was moving through the underground tunnels beneath the city. The air was thick with smoke and dust. Shadows danced along the walls, and every sound was amplified. He checked his map again. There was a storage room ahead where the attackers kept their weapons. If he could destroy it, he could stop the next strike and save thousands. He crept forward, listening. 2 guards were inside, arguing over something small. Dae-hyun waited until they moved apart, then struck. His movements were precise, silent, and fast. Within moments, both guards were unconscious, tied up in a corner. Dae-hyun checked the weapons. Alien explosives, rifles, and some strange devices he had never seen. He made quick work of disabling them, using his knowledge of human and alien technology. As he worked, he heard a noise behind him. Another guard approached, unaware of what had happened. Dae-hyun turned, his expression calm. In a few moves, the man was on the ground, unconscious. Dae-hyun did not kill unless necessary. He worked efficiently and with focus, never losing control. Meanwhile, Mira had arranged for a secret group of loyalists to help. They would gather evidence and protect civilians from the rumors of war. She moved quickly, coordinating efforts across the palace, making sure no one acted rashly. Hours passed. Dae-hyun had cleared the storage area, destroyed the weapons, and left evidence pointing to Rovak's faction. He knew the truth would eventually reach Mira, but he had to remain hidden. If he was caught too soon, the attackers could use him as a scapegoat. At night, he sent a message through the secure channel. "Mira, the palace is not safe. They plan to blame me, but the truth is coming. Stay calm and do not act until you hear me again." Mira read the message and nodded, even though no one could see her. She felt a surge of trust and hope. Dae-hyun was not a traitor. He was fighting for peace in the only way he knew how, directly, with action, and with courage. The next day, the city began to recover. Some fires burned out and some areas were cleared of debris. Soldiers remained alert, and citizens whispered about the human commander who had vanished during the attack. Mira did not speak of him in public. She could not risk revealing his movements, but she thought of him constantly. She walked to the edge of the balcony again, staring at the distant streets. Somewhere below, he was moving, fighting silently, saving lives without recognition. And she understood something important. Humans were unpredictable. They were fragile, but they could also be fearless. Dae-hyun was living proof. Late that night, Mira received another message. Dae-hyun's voice came through the secure communicator. "Tomorrow, we strike. I will return evidence of the attack. Prepare yourself. The real battle is coming." Mira held the communicator tightly. Her chest felt heavy with worry, but also with pride. The man she married for peace was not a puppet or a tool. He was a fighter, a protector, and a strategist beyond any of them. She whispered into the communicator, though she knew he could not hear. "Be careful, Dae-hyun. Come back to me." Somewhere in the dark, moving through the city's secret paths, Dae-hyun smiled faintly. He could not answer her now, but he would keep his promise. Peace must survive, and he would fight to the last breath to protect it. The city slept uneasily, unaware of the quiet struggle unfolding beneath its streets. One human soldier, determined and fearless, moved like a shadow through the corridors of power and danger, setting the stage for a confrontation that could change the fate of worlds. The storm raged outside the palace, dark clouds twisting over the silver towers of Avaris Prime. Lightning split the sky and the roar of thunder shook the walls. Inside, Mira moved quietly through the halls, her footsteps echoing softly against the polished floors. She had not slept for hours. Every moment brought more worry for Dae-hyun, who had vanished after the attack. Her heart pounded as she thought of the messages he had sent. He was moving through the city, tracking the real attackers. He had promised to protect the palace, to prevent more death. She believed him, but fear gnawed at her. If something happened to him, the fragile hope for peace would die with him. The doors to the Hall of Heritage were closed and guarded. Mira knew her uncle wanted her there, a prisoner until the accusations against her human husband could be used as leverage. She paused and looked down the hallway. The guards were few, distracted by the chaos outside. Her fingers brushed against the wall, feeling the smooth surface of the stone. Suddenly, a shadow moved along the far wall. Mira froze. Her heart leaped. Could it be Dae-hyun? She remembered how he had disappeared before, using his knowledge of the city to move unseen. She held her breath and waited. The shadow stopped and a familiar voice whispered from the darkness, "Mira, it is me." "Stay quiet." She stepped forward, relief flooding her chest. Dae-hyun emerged from the shadows, his uniform dark and covered in dust. His face had smudges of soot, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "I am here to take you out," he said softly. "We cannot wait. Your uncle will not stop until he has used you to destroy the treaty." Mira nodded. "Lead the way." They moved silently, hugging the walls and avoiding patrols. Mira's heart raced with both fear and excitement. The palace she had known all her life suddenly felt like a maze of danger. Every turn, every corridor could bring discovery and death. Dae-hyun's hand brushed hers as they passed a corner, a small reminder that he was human, but also that he was strong and confident. She trusted him completely, more than anyone else in the palace. They reached a side door that led to the underground tunnels. Dae-hyun pressed a small device against the lock and it clicked open. Mira slipped inside, following him into the darkness. The air was cold, damp, and smelled of stone and metal. She could hear faint footsteps above them, distant shouts from guards searching for the missing commander. The tunnels twisted and turned, old passages that few had used in decades. Dae-hyun moved with certainty, knowing each corner and exit. Mira stumbled once, catching herself on the wall. He reached out immediately, steadying her with a hand on her arm. "You need to be ready," he said quietly. "We may meet soldiers on the way." She nodded, though her hands were shaking. "I am ready." Hours passed in silence, broken only by the distant sounds of pursuit. Occasionally, Dae-hyun would pause to listen, pointing Mira in the right direction. Finally, they reached the edge of the lower city, a hidden entrance that led to the palace's landing bay. Outside, the storm had eased, leaving rain that fell in heavy sheets. Lightning flashed in the distance, illuminating the ruined streets and the soldiers moving below. Dae-hyun crouched behind a wall, scanning the area. "The way is blocked by patrols," he whispered. "We have to move fast and silent. I will draw attention first, then guide you through." Mira took a deep breath. She had never seen him fight before, but she had no doubt he could handle it. She trusted him with her life. He moved out, stepping into the open. A guard shouted, pointing a weapon at him. Dae-hyun reacted instantly. He moved like water, spinning and catching the guard's wrist, flipping him over silently. Another guard rushed forward, but Dae-hyun was faster, sweeping him to the ground with a single move. Mira's heart pounded as she watched, amazed at his precision and control. She followed his instructions, slipping through the shadows, avoiding detection. Every time a soldier appeared, Dae-hyun was there, ready to block, to distract, to fight if needed. He did not kill unless he had to, only incapacitated the soldiers. Mira realized that he fought with purpose and restraint. Finally, they reached the landing bay. Ships and vehicles were scattered across the area, some destroyed, some untouched. Dae-hyun pointed to a smaller craft hidden behind debris. "That one will take us out, hurry!" They ran together, the storm drenching them. A guard noticed them and fired a warning shot. Dae-hyun dove in front of Mira, catching the shot with his arm and rolling aside, then neutralizing the guard before he could call for backup. Mira gasped, holding her breath, but Daehyun's calm voice reassured her. Stay close. They reached the craft. Daehyun started the engine quickly. Mira climbed in, shaking but determined. He followed, sealing the hatch. The engine roared, lifting them into the sky. Below, the city stretched out, burning in places, silent in others. Mira clutched the seat, looking at the commander who had become her savior. Where are we going? She asked. To the center of the conspiracy, he replied. Rovak's loyalists will strike again. We need proof to stop them and protect peace. Mira nodded. She had no fear now. She trusted him completely. She realized that humans were not just fragile creatures. They were strong, clever, and unpredictable. Daehyun was proof of that. They flew through the rain, avoiding patrols and radar detection. Daehyun guided the craft to a hidden warehouse outside the city, where the attackers kept their supplies. Mira watched silently as he examined the area, planning the next move. He had a clear strategy, moving with precision and confidence. They entered the warehouse carefully. Daehyun showed her the hidden weapons, alien explosives, rifles, and devices designed to destroy entire districts. Mira's heart sank. The attackers were preparing for more chaos. Daehyun worked quickly, disabling the weapons and leaving evidence that pointed to Rovak's faction. He moved with skill, even under the stress of possible discovery. Mira assisted, passing him tools and holding lights. Together they worked in silence, a perfect team despite the danger. Suddenly, footsteps approached. A small group of guards had entered the warehouse. Daehyun whispered, "Stay behind me. Watch and learn." In moments, he disarmed the guards with quiet, precise moves. Mira saw how fast and efficient he was, how he combined strategy and skill. He did not panic even when outnumbered. Mira realized something. This human could fight like no one she had ever seen. When the guards were secured, Daehyun sent a message to her communicator. "The evidence is ready. Rovak cannot hide the truth now. Prepare yourself. The battle is coming and we must face it together." Mira held the communicator tightly, her chest heavy with relief and determination. The man she married for peace was more than a soldier. He was her protector, her guide, and the proof that humans could be heroes in ways she had never imagined. The warehouse was quiet once more. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving a calm night. Mira looked at Daehyun, understanding fully now that the coming days would be dangerous, but she no longer feared for him. She trusted him completely, knowing that together, they could face anything, and somewhere deep in the city, the loyalists of Rovak were unaware that their plans had already begun to crumble, undone by a human soldier who moved like a shadow, struck like lightning, and fought for something far greater than war. He fought for peace. The palace of Avaris Prime was quiet now, but not for long. Outside, the city held its breath. Soldiers moved like shadows across the streets, their armor shining faintly in the moonlight. Mira stood at the top of the balcony, her eyes scanning the horizon. She could feel it coming. She could feel Daehyun moving somewhere below, preparing for what would be the greatest fight of his life. She clutched the communicator in her hand, her knuckles white. "Please be safe," she whispered. She knew he could not hear her, but speaking it gave her courage. Far below, Daehyun crouched behind a ruined wall. His eyes were sharp, calculating every movement of the Avaran soldiers patrolling the streets. He had discovered the Loyalists' plan, a strike on the palace to frame humans and destroy the treaty forever. The moment had come to act. He moved like a shadow, silent and fast. Every step was precise, every breath measured. The soldiers ahead had no idea he was there. When he struck, it would be sudden, overwhelming, and terrifying. The first group of guards turned a corner and froze as Daehyun leapt into view. In a blur of motion, he disarmed one, swept another to the ground, and caught a third mid-air. Every move was calculated, efficient, and deadly. He did not kill unnecessarily, but those who resisted were incapacitated instantly. Mira watched from the balcony, her chest tight. She had never seen anything like it. Her husband, a single human, was moving through hundreds of trained Avaran soldiers like he was born to fight them all. He was fast, smart, and fearless. Every action he took showed skill, strength, and determination. A group of loyalists had gathered near the palace gates. Daehyun spotted them and adjusted his approach. Using debris as cover, he moved quickly, taking advantage of the shadows in the rain-slick streets. The loyalists fired their weapons, but he was faster. Bullets missed him by inches, ricocheting off walls. He grabbed a fallen rifle, using it as both shield and weapon. He fought through the streets, leaving stunned and incapacitated soldiers in his wake. The legend of the human began to form even as the battle unfolded. Civilians peered from windows, whispering among themselves, eyes wide. No human could fight like this. No one could move with such skill and precision. And yet, here he was, defending the city he had barely known before yesterday. Inside the palace, Mira coordinated the loyal counselors. "Do not panic. Follow the plan. Protect the citizens and wait for Dae-hyun," she ordered. Her voice was calm, but her heart raced. Every second counted. She knew the palace would not survive long without him. Dae-hyun reached the gates, where General Rovak himself stood with a group of elite soldiers. Rovak laughed when he saw the human. "Do you really think you can stop me, flesh and blood?" He sneered. Dae-hyun did not answer. He moved forward. His fists were like iron, his legs struck with precision. Every movement was a perfect combination of strength, speed, and intelligence. He dodged attacks, blocked blades, and used the enemy's own momentum against them. He fought not out of anger, but out of purpose. Each strike was meant to protect. Each move was meant to save lives. Rovak's soldiers tried to surround him, but Dae-hyun was everywhere at once. He rolled through attacks, leapt over barriers, and incapacitated enemies faster than they could react. Even the elite soldiers could not touch him. Mira watched from above, her eyes wide, her hand over her mouth. He was more than a soldier. He was like a force of nature. Finally, Dae-hyun faced Rovak alone. The general was tall, strong, and ruthless. He swung his weapon with deadly precision. Dae-hyun dodged, blocked, and countered. Every strike of Rovak met with an answer. Every attack parried and returned with skill that seemed impossible for a human. "You cannot win," Rovak shouted. "I fight for peace," Dae-hyun replied calmly, his eyes steady. "That makes me stronger than you think." The battle between the two was intense. Rovak struck hard, but Dae-hyun's movements were faster. He used the general's strength against him, guiding him into traps and knocking weapons away. Every strike was purposeful, every move calculated. Mira could see from above how a single human could fight like a god among soldiers. The loyalists were falling one by one. Some surrendered, some were incapacitated. Civilians whispered in awe, watching the human who could not be stopped. His reputation was spreading even as he fought. Mira realized that this was not just a battle for the palace. It was a battle for the hearts of everyone watching. Dae-hyun's arms were cut and bruised, his uniform torn, but he did not slow. His focus was absolute. He moved with the certainty of a man who knew what he must do. He struck, dodged, and disarmed. Even Rovak began to falter, unable to match his speed and skill. Finally, Dae-hyun disarmed the general, holding him at bay. Rovak fell to his knees, defeated but alive. Dae-hyun did not strike further. "It is over," he said. "No more blood needs to be shed." Mira ran down to the courtyard, rushing to him. She saw the bruises, the blood, and the exhaustion on his face. But she also saw the fire in his eyes, the unbroken will, the man who had risked everything to protect her and the city. "You did it," she said softly, taking his hand. He looked at her, his lips curving into a faint smile. "We did it," he corrected. "Peace is not won alone." The citizens and soldiers alike lowered their weapons, watching in awe. The human had fought, and he had won. Not for glory, not for himself, but for peace. Mira understood now why she had married him. He was not just a soldier. He was a protector, a hero, and a force beyond what anyone could expect. As the sun began to rise, casting golden light over the city, Dae-hyun and Mira stood together. The palace was safe, the attackers defeated, and the loyalists captured. The people whispered among themselves, spreading stories of the human who fought like a god. Mira squeezed his hand. "You are more than a man," she said. Dae-hyun looked at her, tired but calm. "I am only what I must be, but I will always fight for those I care about." The city watched them, awe and respect in every eye. The story of the human who could not be stopped spread quickly. Even Rovak's soldiers, once proud and fearless, looked at him differently now. He had shown them what courage, intelligence, and determination could achieve. Mira knew the battle was only one step. The real work of peace was just beginning. But she also knew that with Dae-hyun by her side, humanity's place among the stars had changed forever. For the first time since the attack, Mira felt hope. She knew the future would not be easy, but she also knew that no one could face it like he could, human, fierce. and unstoppable when protecting what he loved. And somewhere deep in the hearts of all who had seen him fight, a new respect was born. The human soldier had shown them the meaning of strength, courage, and the true power of a single person determined to protect peace. The city was quiet now. The chaos of the battle faded into memory. Fires had been extinguished, the injured cared for, and the palace slowly repaired. Citizens moved cautiously through the streets, whispering stories of what they had seen. One man, a human soldier, had changed everything. Mira walked through the city, her eyes scanning the faces around her. People looked at her differently now. They no longer whispered about the human problem or questioned her marriage. Instead, they spoke of courage, respect, and hope. She paused at the edge of the plaza, looking at the holographic news display. The battle had been broadcast across the galaxy. Millions, even billions, had watched a human fight against impossible odds and win. The words repeated on the screen. A human soldier defends peace. A new hero rises. Mira felt pride and relief wash over her. Daehyun had not only saved her life but had changed the way her people saw humanity. In her chambers, Mira stood by the window, staring at the distant stars. Her hand rested on the communicator, knowing that Daehyun was still recovering. He had been injured during the battle, though none of the wounds were fatal. He had fought until the last moment, ensuring that no loyalist could continue their attack. She thought of his calm face, his steady hands, and the quiet way he had protected everything she cared about. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Averan healers entered, guiding Daehyun on a stretcher. He was covered in bandages, his uniform torn and blood-stained, but his eyes were open, alert, and calm. Mira rushed to his side. "You're awake," she whispered, relief filling her voice. Daehyun smiled faintly. "I am, and you are safe." "I was so worried," she said, taking his hand. His grip was strong even through the injuries. "You do not need to worry," he replied. "The danger is over, at least for now. Peace is alive because of everyone's choices. Yours, mine, and even the citizens who chose hope over fear." Mira looked at him, feeling the weight of the past days. "You risked everything. Yourself, the treaty, even your life. Why?" He turned his eyes to the distant stars. "Because peace is worth fighting for. Because protecting others is what makes life meaningful. Because I promised you, and promises are not broken lightly." Her heart ached at his words. She had married him for peace as a political move, but now she understood. He had become the living proof that humans could be heroes, that even one person could change the fate of millions. The healers worked quietly, tending to his wounds. Mira stayed by his side, holding his hand and whispering comfort. She thought of how the galaxy would remember this moment, not just the fight but the trust, courage, and unity it had inspired. Days passed. Daehyun recovered slowly, regaining strength with each sunrise. Mira stayed close, helping him walk through the corridors of the palace and the healing gardens outside. Every movement was careful, but every step reminded her of his resilience. The treaty that had been threatened by loyalist sabotage was renewed. Leaders from Earth and the Averan Dominion signed the agreement once more, this time with genuine trust and understanding. Mira oversaw the ceremonies, her voice steady as she spoke of peace and cooperation. And throughout the galaxy, broadcasts told the story of the human who had fought like a god, inspiring respect and admiration. One afternoon, Mira led Daehyun to the palace balcony. The sun was rising, casting golden light over the twin moons of Avaris Prime. The city below was peaceful, citizens walking freely, soldiers standing at ease, and traders returning to their shops. Mira looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. "You did more than I ever imagined," she said softly. Daehyun looked out over the city, breathing in the fresh air. "I only did what I had to. You inspired me to keep going. Your courage made me stronger." Mira smiled. "I married you for peace, thinking it was politics. But now I see it was fate. You showed everyone, including me, what humans can be." He looked at her, a faint smile on his lips. "And you showed me why peace is worth fighting for. Together we can protect it, always." The city below was quiet, but the message was clear. Humanity was no longer just a distant species to the Averan. They had seen what courage looked like, what determination could achieve, and what one person could do when driven by love and duty. Rovok's loyalists had been captured or disbanded. The remaining soldiers and civilians whispered among themselves, remembering the battle and the human who had faced impossible odds. Daehyun had shown them that strength was not only in size or technology, but in courage, intelligence, and the will to protect. As Mira and Daehyun stood together, holding hands, the galaxy watched silently. Across star systems, stories of the human who fought like a god spread. Children would grow up hearing the tale, soldiers would tell it in their barracks, and leaders would remember that one person could change the course of history. Mira turned to Daehyun. "The galaxy respects you now," she said. He shook his head slightly, still tired from the battle. "I did not fight for respect. I fought so peace could live. That is enough." She placed her hand on his cheek gently. "You gave us all hope. You gave the stars a reason to trust humans. That is worth more than respect." He smiled faintly, looking at her with warmth. "Then I am glad. For hope is what will last long after we are gone." The sun rose higher, bathing the palace in light. Citizens went about their day, unaware of how close they had been to losing everything, but the story of the human soldier would live on. Mira and Daehyun stood side by side, watching the city, the stars, and the future they had fought to protect. Mira whispered softly, "You are more than a man. You are proof that humans can be heroes." Daehyun looked at her, his eyes full of quiet strength. "I am nothing without people to protect. Without you, without those who believed in me, none of this would matter." She smiled. "Then we are equals. Together we will protect this peace always." And for the first time in many days, Mira felt complete. She had married a human to prevent war, but she had found so much more. She had found courage, love, and hope. She had found a man who could fight like a god, yet still be gentle, loyal, and true. The galaxy, silent and vast, had witnessed it all. One human, a soldier, a husband, had changed the course of history. The story of his courage and skill would echo across the stars, inspiring generations. And Mira knew as she held his hand and looked out at the peaceful city, that together they had done something greater than either could imagine. Daehyun's fight had ended, but his legend had just begun. The galaxy would remember the human who fought for peace, who risked everything to protect life, and who showed that courage and love were the greatest weapons of all. The sun shone over Avaris Prime, reflecting on the palace towers and the peaceful streets. Mira leaned on Daehyun and he wrapped an arm around her shoulder. Together they faced the stars, knowing that the battles to come would be easier because they had already shown the galaxy the true power of humanity. The human soldier had fought like a god, and in doing so, he had given the galaxy hope, peace, and a reason to believe.